comedy a crime? Well, that's the question that the Indian artist community, stand-ups, comedians, YouTubers are raising today. The reason? Another arrest of an artist. The Kolkata police on Tuesday arrested YouTuber Rudur Roy in Goa for making derogatory remarks against West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. He was arrested in Goa and then brought to Kolkata on transit remand. What was the offence? He had reportedly made remarks against the Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee during a Facebook live session on the controversy surrounding singer Rupankar Bakshi's statement with regard to deceased Bollywood singer KK. Roy allegedly made derogatory remarks against Bakshi, Banerjee as well as her nephew MP Abhishek Banerjee. The prosecution had sought 14-day police custody for the YouTuber. He is now being sent to police custody till the 14th of June. Earlier as well, Roy had mocked the Bangla Academy's decision to confer the West Bengal Chief Minister with a special literary award. This of course comes in the backdrop of artists that have made their voices and displeasure open with the arrest of Munawar Farooqui in the past as well, where they've questioned what about freedom of expression. Well, that is a legitimate question. The other big question is, at what cost are artists making these jokes? Is mocking gods and goddesses across religion, hurting religious sentiments, taking pot shots at netas, now becoming an easier and convenient hack for artists? So the question that we're asking today is there no room for jokes against Netas? Let me also now introduce our guest joining us this evening. Priyanka Tibrewal, BJP spokesperson, Riju Datta, the TMC spokesperson, Ashutosh Srivastava, a lawyer from the Supreme Court. We have a stand-up comedian, Puneet Pania, and we also have Akash Banerjee, a political satirist. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Let me first begin with Priyanka. Priyanka, how do you respond to the arrest of this YouTuber? This is not the first time that objectionable comments by him have been made. He had made some very derogatory comments about the Prime Minister in the past as well.
Correct. So see, first of all, I would state that any kind of act which is there intentionally to demean or defame any public representative is deplorable, and I condemn it. But apart from that, I will also say that we have heard that the leaders from the Trinamool, always they have said that what about the freedom of speech? It is they who said that, sedition laws are being used as a weapon by the government, so they should be repealed. But when it is the question of the security of our country, then they feel that sedition laws should not be there. But today, if someone has spoken something personal about anybody for that matter, and it is not that Rudur Roy has done this for the first time, he has been intentionally doing this, but no steps were taken. And today, if steps are taken against him, then I will say that TMC should take step against Shiny Ghosh, who made fun of the Hindu religion, who was intentionally doing this to provoke the sentiments of Hindus by giving a picture of a condom over Shivlinga. Then no steps, even this was not even uttered by the TMC or the Chief Minister, no action was taken. Today, how come? I want to know that which are the people where, or which is the place where the right would have broken, which is the religion which has been hurt by all this, because they have planned 153, 501, 504, 505 against this Rudur Ghosh, so they should answer.
Okay. Riju Datta, I want to come to you. This is exactly what the BJP has been saying all day long, that the TMC is only willing to take action when you have your own ministers or leaders concerned. What about the comments, as I pointed out, when he made against the Prime Minister, or more importantly, when that same YouTuber distorted Tagore songs as well? No action was taken.
My humble question to everybody here who's supporting Rotgurra, including BJP, is that when he made derogatory comments against Narendra Modi, where was BJP? When he made derogatory comments against Rabindranath Tagore, a lot of FIRs were filed, but somehow he escaped justice. And I stand by my, because I am the one who filed the FIR against him, along with my MP, Dr. Shantanu Sen, who filed a complaint, that, you know, these people should be arrested long back. He should have been arrested long back. See, this freedom of speech that people talk about, I think the ideal example of that is when a BJP spokesperson comes on a TV and has said something for which the country has to apologize to other neighboring countries. That is where you cross the line. The country itself is saying that now Nupur Sharma is a fringe element. So bottom line is
he will not shift the focus from what they have done to something else. This is not a topic of discussion today.
Can I finish?
Now, because they do not have an answer, does he have an answer to 17 January 2021 Act of Flying Post? Where she was planned for a condom over sibling comment and tweet which went viral. No steps were taken then. Then you tell me you weren't worried about that the religious sentiments of the community are being heard.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Priyanka, let Riju at least establish his point, considering the fact he was the one who actually filed the complaint, and now the YouTuber has been sent to police custody till the 14th of June. So Priyanka, one second, let him at least establish his point, because I want to take the question, the larger issue, to our other guests as well. Riju, complete your point.
Exactly. What I am trying to say is that this BJP has a problem with viral diarrhea. They always have to blurt out something. My question is this. In this particular Facebook Live where I filed the complaint and the Honorable MP complained and he was arrested, here he did not, I have been a spokesperson of the party where I have vehemently criticized the Modi government in over 700 debates. I have vehemently criticized the policies of the Prime Minister of this country. But I have never taken the name of Narendra Modi and gone and directly abused him. I also cannot do that. That is not permitted in law. So what he did was, and the last question, anybody who supports Rotgurra, I will humbly suggest them, go watch that live, and if you think you can sit with your children and watch that, you can use that particular language for your mother.
There is no denying the fact that was unparliamentary language that was used, and somewhere down the line a fine line needs to be drawn. Akash, I want to bring you in to talk about the larger issue. Artists being arrested is not something new. We've all seen the case of cartoonist Aseem Trivedi, who was jailed for sedition charges, and you had the likes of Kunal Kamra, Veer Das, and of course the most recent one of Munawar Farooqi as well. Every time something similar happens, the artist community comes out and says our freedom of expression actually is being curbed. While that's a valid argument to make, look at the kind of language that this particular YouTuber had used. Does that argument even hold validity then?
So, it's very nice that you mentioned Aseem also, because when politicians are in power, then suddenly they don't like jokes, and then suddenly sedition becomes very, very important. There is no doubt, there is no debate over the fact is that if somebody goes ahead and abuses in the choicest of words to a politician, there shouldn't be action that should be taken. In a legal sense of the word, yes, action can be taken, action should be taken. One can debate whether you should have a thick skin and let things go or not.
Sure.
Well, it's the political party's choice. They didn't want to let it go. They haven't let it go, and that's that. And the person has been arrested. However, there is a larger case here that needs to be understood. Just a few years ago, you would have been doing shows, and you, on your network also, were very proudly having a comedy show, political satire show. Tell me how many political satirists can you name today? Tell me how many stand-up comic shows are happening today, and let's not say because of COVID. So the fact is that while abusing of politicians will result in action is absolutely okay. Look at the broader message that is happening. That if I joke about the Supreme Court, then I will have contempt of court. If I make or mock a politician, even without using words, then I will have an FIR lodged against me.
That is a separate argument where I'll get to that whether a fine line needs to be drawn on what is funny and what is objectionable. But I'm asking this up in arms that the artist community that we see at large, do we understand cases as isolated cases, or do we see them as a broader sense? And the reason that I'm asking you, Akash, is because a lot of comparison today on social media was being made with the case of Munawar Farooqi. While I think that comparison doesn't hold, because Munawar Farooqi, he claims that he was arrested for a joke that he never made. But here the comments are for everybody to see. So why shouldn't legal action follow?
There is no comparison whatsoever. The problem, and it also shows where our society is. Even today, you will have people saying that, "Arey, but look at all this Nupurwala case. Munawar also made fun of our gods." So then, are you saying that he was jailed? There was a court case, and yet the government let him go after he mocked the gods, or that there was no joke that could be brought to the courts? So there is obviously a very clear distinction. When you have broken the law, when the record is there, you get prosecuted. End of story.
Sure.
But why is this happening is because today, in today's day and age, anything can be alleged on you, anything can be labeled on you, and it will stick. There lies the problem. In this case, there is of course live Facebook, and I don't think anybody in the artistic community is defending somebody who openly abused. Yes, on the same breath, I will also say that Mamata Banerjee has often been accused of being very, very intolerant. There is that whole case of Jadavpur University, the cartoonist there being hounded for years. There is enough and more argument to be made. But if you ask in this particular example, it's a textbook case where somebody broke the law, somebody
and legal action
abused.
Followed.
There is clear evidence. There is no defense of that.
Okay. Puneet, I want to bring you in also as part of this artist community. You're a performer yourself. How do you feel today when you see this? Where do you stand?
See, we perform every day and the space for us is shrinking. There is no question about it. The way you see 295 being misused every day, we already have thousands of gods in this country. We don't need more politicians becoming gods and adding to the list of holy cows in this country. So artists will keep pushing for more freedom of speech and the authorities keep pushing in the other direction. There's no end to this battle, but we have to keep fighting every day. Otherwise, I can see that the space is clearly shrinking. In this case, the gentleman in question, obviously, he used very unparliamentary language. But do you lock him up? Is he a menace to society? Is he a danger to general public goodwill? I really don't think so.
Ashutosh, let me take that question to you. Give us a legal perspective. The comments were everybody to see, the language, everybody's heard it. Are there enough grounds to arrest him and send him to a police custody for about 10 days?
See, what I have to say is that when there is any such kind of derogatory remarks, the intensity has to be seen. Now, if there is simply a criticism of any government agencies for not performing the work properly or whatever it is, I do not think that it should be treated in such a magnitude and the FIR is registered under non-billable sections and a person is arrested and taken into custody. Now, we have seen earlier also that when there was section 66A of IT Act 2000, that was misused in many cases. Many of the FIRs were registered day after other, and finally, when it went to the Supreme Court repealed that section. Now, other example, what we have seen that many of the misuse of sections 124A, that is sedition, which has been filed in many of the cases, and many people have been prosecuted under this section. And when this matter again went to the Supreme Court, now finally the Supreme Court has stayed, implication of this section at present. So the issue is that when our law enforcement agencies, like police in this case, they come to know about any such information, they should have a proper application of mind as to what kind of sections should be implicated. Now, in a case where a person has been defamed, simply section 500 can be imposed. But as we know that it would be a bailable section and a person will not be prosecuted for long, and there will not be a longer custodial interrogation of that person, and hence the sections like 124A and other sections are implicated intentionally by some of the law enforcement agencies. So what I have to say is that any law enforcement agencies, they should be independent of the politicians and the government.
Agencies need to be independent as far as their own decisions are concerned. There should be no pressure as far as political parties are concerned. That's a valid point that you're making. Rishitutta, I want to come back to you. Now, I've done multiple shows as far as this debate of freedom of expression is concerned. One section of the artist community feels that if this is where we're headed, then why don't we make a list of certain topics saying religion is out of bounds, netas are out of bounds, sexual orientation is out of bounds, and then we make a law around it so that at least we also know what we're dealing with. when we put freedom of expression, this is a farce.
No, I will say this. See, you have Akash on your panel, and I personally will say that I am a big fan of him. I see his channel, and he's a master of political satire. He does it, but he's not being arrested. He's not been booked. See, the bottom line is we welcome criticism. You criticize, no problem.
Arrested yet.
If you do not like it, you criticize. But the time you go against you go about insulting the modesty of a woman, you go and call out the name of a constitutional person who is elected by the people and directly abuse this. That is a line that you cannot cross. Like I said, I can vehemently criticize the Modi Sarkar, I can vehemently criticize the policies of the Prime Minister of this country, but I cannot call directly Narendra Modi ji and abuse filthy language against him. That is crossing the line. There should be a line. And I mean, we say that we live in a civil society. So in a civil society, the languages that you cannot use against your parents, against your children, I think you cannot cross that line when you are using against public figures. You cannot do that.
Okay. I also think there is another issue which I want Priyanka to address. Priyanka, when the case of Munawar Farooq and other cases also happened, you had the opposition offering him states, saying you come in our state, there is freedom of expression, we will give you a free platform. Even with Rodhu Roy, I've seen some reactions on social media. So I want to understand, does that not become problematic then? Because here you need to have political parties to keep their differences aside and know what is accepted in the framework of humor or jokes.
Of course, I wanted to come to this. So when I finished my statement, Mr. Riju Datta, he said, now see, whoever is supporting Rodhu Roy, I in my very first statement said that I condemn any such kind of statement or act which has been done to demean or defame a person. I did not say that I support him. But now when TMC is showing a hypocritical character here, I question that who is going to draw this line. He just said that there should be a line. So even I am saying so. When someone is saying something against the Chief Minister, you just go and arrest him and then you implicate him under sections which you knew would be bailable. You very well knew that in defamation he'll get a bail. So you added further sections of forgery and cheating of 465, 67, 68, 69 so that he cannot get a bail. Now the same question again comes back to them, that who will draw this line? When their MP of their party, Kalyan Banerjee, he said this against the Prime Minister of the country, that he will have a heart attack, he will have to run back to the hole in Gujarat like a son of a rat. Then where was that line, and why didn't everyone at that point of time ask them to draw the line?
Akash, I want to bring you in here and I want to understand, this is a debate that we see every single time. Where do you draw the line? Today, has it become just convenient for artists to mock somebody's religious sentiments, somebody's astha, or take pot shot as netas? Has it just become a convenient route? And is there where we need better accountability and responsibility from the artists themselves to draw a line, say this is not funny?
Okay, so there is never going to be X, Y is equal to Z. Ye rule bana do and let's follow it, okay? In any country, in any community, there is always a little bit of flux that happens. That's a point taken. As far as religion is concerned, let's admit it, it's completely off the table. I mean, nobody wants to touch it with a barge pole at this point of time. You will hardly find a comedian trying to touch religion with a barge pole at this point of time. That's been taken off the table. What is happening and what we are seeing at this point of time is politicians being taken off the table. Not Modi ji only, everybody. Nobody wants to be mocked. And I sometimes talk about this on our channel, that you can say a politician is corrupt and he will say, I will deal with you or I will handle you. That's okay, part of politics. But you mock him, you mock his mannerisms, you mock his style of talking, you show his hypocritical statements, and he will take it personally. So in today's day and age, a newspaper article of corruption might not be taken as to the heart by a politician as much as some
I just wanted to understand the larger... I wanted to understand the larger issue. And Puneet, I want to take the same question to you. While I understand what Akash is saying, that there's never going to be a defined set of topics that could be off, but shouldn't there be a better sense of sensitivity? Because look at the comments that Rodhu Roy made. Nobody in their sane mind would want to defend those.
So we let the audience decide in that case, and I want people to understand that most of us are just individuals of modest means. and you are up against a state machinery which is practically medieval in nature. It's not an even battle like it's made out to be. We are not a threat to any of these people. They just get offended very easily, and the people in power, they tend to have huge egos. That is it. Everything beyond that is just conjecture. So we will keep pushing for this. Otherwise, we are losing freedom by the day. You can see it. It's creeping up on you. The list of things you cannot say just keeps growing and growing. So I will not buy the rhetoric of artists trying to be sensitive and balancing. We don't have to balance. We are individuals. We will keep fighting for more freedom. Let the state balance. The state has inordinately higher power than us.
Okay.
And there is no discussion at all. You look at how the laws are being implemented. The inspector is the first person who should take credence of whether to register the FIR or not. He has no freedom. It is the magistrate has to see if case of 295 is even applicable here. Even he has no freedom. When the entire machinery is completely compromised, don't expect individual artists to have that much discretion. We'll keep pushing the boundaries, otherwise we can't exist in this country anymore.
Okay. Ashutosh, I want to also talk to you about another sense of accountability and responsibility, which is the responsibility of the social media platforms themselves. This was a live session that was put out on social media platforms. This, of course, has been now eventually taken down after these multiple complaints that were put out. But shouldn't there be checks and balances as far as accountability and responsibility of the content that is out on these social media platforms as well?
Absolutely. As per the amendment which has been carried out in the IT Act 2000 last year, the intermediaries have been made responsible. Now it is their duty that whenever something is posted through them, they have to check the content, and if anything is objectionable, that has to be removed by them immediately, and that can also be intimated to the concerned authorities. So those rules have been made. But yes, in India we need to have other rules also, like data protection laws, etc. But as we know that there should not be abuse of process of law. Sure. When the process of law is abused, then there is a problem. We have seen in the same set of alleged offence, there have been multiple FIRs in different places. Now, particularly in this case, suppose one FIR is registered. Now, if somebody again, files another FIR in some other state, and this person gets bail from the existing FIR, then he has to go for the bail for the another FIR. Even knowing clearly that the Supreme Court had clarified that there should not be multiple FIRs for the same set of an offence. But still it is happening. So I think the law enforcement agencies have to take it very seriously, whatever being ordered by the Supreme Court. When Section 66A of the IT Act was removed, it was repealed by the Supreme Court. Still the FIRs were lodged under the same section and people were arrested. Okay. Unless and until the high courts came in different states and they clarified that this section has been repealed and there should not be such FIR being registered further, then only the law enforcement agencies got information and they stopped registering such FIRs. So I think the law enforcement agencies should not be biased into what they are doing, and while implicating the sections of IPC or any other act, they must see the magnitude of the alleged crime, and they should verify the facts before registering such a FIR. If any offence is coming under,
I think that's a valid point that Ashutosh is making. And Priyanka, I want to take that question to you before I take a larger issue to Riju. Priyanka, but I want to understand, while nobody is justifying the comments that Oberoi had made or anybody else in that matter, if objectionable comments have been made, you need to take them to task. But there is another worry today that because there seems to be a pattern of maybe misusing the law, is the livelihoods of the artists at risk today? And that concern nobody seems to be voicing.
See, this is exactly what happened when the professor who was just being discussed from Jadavpur University, when he was arrested. Now you have to see that this is a very thin line, and many a times I think we have a Supreme Court lawyer, Mr. Abhishek here, A. Srivastava, he would be able to say that Supreme Court has said this many a time, that when we speak of freedom of expression and speech, so there is a very thin line and which has to be understood. So before these FIRs are being registered, like I said, that in this particular case, this is the same TMC when there was an unlawful assembly in JNU, that was imperceptible to them. They did not even realize that anything went wrong. When their slogans were raised, that Bharat tere tukde honge, Desh ki azadi tak jang hogi, then they said, where is the freedom of speech? Why sedition laws should be there? And today when someone spoke something against their party or their party leaders, because not only the chief minister, one of their party leaders is also there
Sure.
in this. So you go and arrest that person, you put in number of sections so that he doesn't get a bail.
So Riju
Now, when
Datta,
something
we
is
come back to
against
the same
country,
question
then
with
you
what
are
we
quiet.
started. Have we just become intolerant?
First of all, it is not about intolerance. It is about drawing a line. Now, the question is who will draw the line? I believe it is upon us, before the government take toll of it, that we should know the line not to cross. And I have been hearing BJP and Priyanka saying all sorts of things. I can give 10 examples where and I will not go into the examples because I have hundreds. Just couple, Abhinav Das, who shared a picture of Amit Shah and Pooja Singhal, was arrested. Who is Pooja Singhal? Everybody knows. In MP, forget artists, forget people who believe in satire, forget them. When journalists challenged and wrote a story on a politician in Madhya Pradesh, what happened to those journalists? They were half naked standing in a police station. So I am not here to
So if
be
you
patronized
believe
by
that
the
they
BJP.
were wrong, then
Can I
what you are
finish?
doing today is
Can I
wrong.
finish, please?
Okay, I'm
Why
running
do
out
you
of
want
time.
to
30
finish?
seconds,
If
quickly.
you believe that
So
those
the
actions were wrong
bottom
and
line is,
then whatever he is doing today or is
the bottom
government has
line
done
is
it wrong.
this. The bottom line is this. If anybody tries to insult the modesty of a woman, if anybody directly abuses anybody in a constitutional position, a public figure, be it across all party lines, and anybody crosses the line of civil society, I think they should be brought to book.
Okay, unfortunately I have completely run out of time. I'll have to leave that conversation there. We'll continue this debate in the future time as well. Would like to thank all our guests who took our time and joined us here.